Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 4 o'clock. I'm Rachel Cole. Tram and Troy are off today. We begin with a big development in the case against Lori Vallow Daybell. Just one day after she was found competent to stand trial, Vallow waived her right to an attorney and will now be representing herself in her murder conspiracy cases out of Arizona. 12 News journalist Erica Stapleton was in court. And Erica, did this come as a surprise?
Well, Rachel, she's stated for a while now that this is something she wants to do. But for those of us following this case closely, like I have been for the past several years, you're probably wondering why she would want to do something like this, especially given her history of competency concerns in Idaho. Vallow was convicted last year in Idaho for killing her children, Tylee and JJ, who used to live here in the valley. She was sentenced to life in prison in Idaho, and her current husband, Chad Daybell, was sentenced to death in Idaho for the same case. At one point in time, she was deemed incompetent in that case, and it took several months to restore her to the point of going to trial. Back in Arizona, she's facing 2 conspiracy to commit murder charges, one out of Chandler in the death of her former husband, the other a shooting attempt in Gilbert at her niece's ex-husband who ultimately wasn't injured. Each case will have its own trial here in Arizona, and this morning the judge asked Vallow a series of questions to make sure she understood that she'd be held to the same standards as an attorney.
There are serious disadvantages and dangers to representing yourself. Can you just tell me a little bit why you want to represent yourself?
Yes, Your Honor. For the past 5 years that I've been incarcerated, I have taken it upon myself to study case law and criminal rules of procedure in the state of Idaho and Arizona, as well as federally. Prior to that, for the last 10 years, prior to my incarceration, I did study procedure in family law, and I have real trial experience.
So, Rachel, that real trial experience she's talking about are 2 family court cases involving another former husband and the trial in Idaho, her criminal case where she was convicted and sentenced to 3 life sentences in Idaho for murdering her children. So that's the experience she's referring to.
Yeah, and divorce and murder cases are likely a bit different if you're representing yourself. So can she change her mind?
Well, the judge says yes, she can. And the attorneys that were were appointed to represent her, they'll be staying on as kind of advisors if she wants to use them. But if there's any point where she says, you know what, I want those attorneys back, she can do that. But the judge says she can't flip-flop. So if she makes that decision, she can't go back and say, just kidding, I want to represent myself. Yeah. So it's, this is her decision now. If she changes her mind, she kind of has one chance to do that.
And as you said, you've been following this case for so many years, and she seems to be a woman of very few words. So have we seen anything like this from her before?
No, from my recollection, we haven't seen this in Idaho. I don't recall she's wanting to represent herself. And here we haven't heard much from her throughout these cases for the past several years. She was locked up waiting for trial in Idaho for several years. Didn't get to hear from her. She spoke out at her sentencing there, but it was what some called a religious diatribe, and that had some delusions in there, which is something she was accused of in her Idaho case.
Right, that's been mixed.
Yeah, so we've heard some of that, but in court here, the judge has even said, you appear lucid, you're making conversation, you're speaking out. So she's appeared competent and is making this decision. It's something the judge approved. So
with that approval, where does the case then go from here?
So at this point, the 2 charges she's facing here in Arizona, they're going to be 2 separate trials. That first trial, the jury selection is set to start in March of next year. So that's where we're going from here. It's moving right along. And she says she's ready and we'll have a defense to present. We don't know what that is yet, but she's going to have a defense to present.
And we know you'll continue to follow the latest developments. Thank you for the latest this morning. We appreciate it this afternoon as well. All right, amazing.